Hello, welcome to the How to Go Solar and Storage webinar. We're going to give it just a minute for people to make it into the Zoom room. So please feel free to get comfy, grab some water, and we'll get started in just 1 minute. Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, some more people will also join us while we're doing some housekeeping right at the beginning. My name is Abby Jager. I'm a program manager with Solar Oregon, and this is our How to Go Solar Plus Storage workshop. In today's workshop, we're going to be covering how solar works, how you can know if your home is right for solar. We will then talk about the various incentives that are available and how you can save money on your solar installation. And then we'll talk about how you can get started on solar today. As I go through a few housekeeping things, I'm also going to launch a few polls. These are completely confidential or just for us to know a little bit about who's in the Zoom room and taking our webinars in order to help us apply for further funding. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out as I'm talking to you, that would be great. If throughout the presentation you have any questions, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I will also be providing resources and links in the chat throughout the presentation, but you can put questions into that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen at any point during the presentation. You do not need to wait until the end, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll be going through all of them. So first, a little bit about the organization that brought you here today, Solar Oregon. This is the organization I work for. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 organization that focuses on education, community, and advocacy all around solar power. We have been active in the state of Oregon since 1979, providing a variety of educational webinars and in-person educational and community-oriented events throughout the state since that time. This webinar is also made possible by support by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon serves over 2 million people in the Pacific Northwest who receive power from PAC Power, PGE, or Avista and Northwest Natural Gas. They help people access renewable energy and clean energy solutions for their home. Thank you for all of you who filled out that first poll. I'm going to go ahead and end that one and launch the next one now. If you're just joining, these polls I'm launching are completely optional. They're just to help us get some demographic data, so help us know who's in the Zoom room, and so that we can use it when applying for grant funding. Thank you. I'm going to launch one last poll now. And thank you so much for filling that out. And so, let me close this screen. Now, without further ado, I'm going to dive into how solar works. So here's a diagram of a basic solar system. We have the photovoltaic or PV panel pictured here on the left. This is what will be mounted on the ground near your home or on your roof, and when sunlight hits this panel, it generates a volt of electricity. That volt of electricity then flows into a new device that will be installed along with your solar panels called an inverter or microinverter. The volt electricity that's generated is called DC electricity, and the inverter or microinverter that I'll be talking about more in just a moment is what converts it from DC electricity to usable AC electricity for your home. From there, it then flows to your home electric panel, where it can be used to power your lights, AC, charge an electric vehicle, and do everything we need power for. If at any point in time your solar panels are generating more power than they're using, maybe today would be one such example where I know in the Willamette Valley it is over 90 degrees, and so those panels are pumping out tons of power with all the sun, your excess solar power would then flow to your new bidirectional utility meter in order to be used by your friends and neighbors. Your new bidirectional utility meter is able to track power flow in both directions. So both what you are providing out to the grid at any point that your solar panels are generating more power, or if at any point in time, such as at night when your solar panels are not generating enough power, it will also allow you to pull power from the grid in order to offset that difference. So that's your basic solar system. All in all, it's not that many components and it's quite simple, which is one of the things that makes it highly modular and able to work for many homes and businesses. So here's a little bit more about inverters or microinverters. As I said, inverters and microinverters are the devices that convert DC electricity generated by your solar panels to usable AC electricity for your home. Both inverter and microinverters are installed frequently throughout the state. It just really depends on the needs of your home and your specific site. Inverters, which are pictured on the left, that white box there, take in all the power from all the solar panels at once. So if you have 10 solar panels, you'd only have one inverter and it switches all that power over to usable power at once. So it is taking everything at one time. Along with your inverter, you might also get a DC optimizer, which just helps your solar panels lose less power throughout the process. So you're getting as much power as possible. But all in all, it's one or two devices and that's it. In contrast, a microinverter, which is what is inside this orange box here on the right, takes in the power from just one or two panels at a time. So if you have a 10 panel system, you might have up to 10 microinverters installed with your panels, and they are installed directly under the panels as pictured here. Like I said at the beginning, both of these devices are installed frequently throughout Oregon. It just really depends on the needs of your system. Microinverters can be a little bit more expensive because of you need more of them, but they also can have some other things that makes that price worth it for some people. So it really just depends, and your solar contractor will usually suggest one or the other for you and your site. In addition to inverters, something that might need to be upgraded within your home is the electric panel. Based on your home size and energy consumption habits, you might need to upgrade your electric panel in order to support the added load of the solar panels running through it. If you have a particularly older home, you may also need some general electrical updates in order to ensure that your electrical system can support the solar panels. And if you do not have much extra space on your electric panel, you may need to do some future planning and might need to update it just so that you have the correct wattage available if you ever want to electrify something in your home or grow your home later without having to do a costly repair. So there are two main ways that we mount solar panels. The first is a roof mount. This is when solar panels are mounted on your roof. This is what you'll commonly see driving around Portland or any other metropolitan area, as this takes advantage of something that's already usually sitting in the hot sun, not doing much other than protecting our home every day. If you do have the space available, another great option are ground mounts. That's what's pictured on the right and what you will see if you drive out to the gorge and see those solar panel farms. These are a great option if you do have the space for it, but they also can come with some added costs as you will need to run conduit from those ground mounted panels back to your home, but they can be a great option. So now that I've gone through some of the basics of a solar system, I'm now going to talk about net metering, which is how solar panels help save you money. So the way net metering works, in order to explain net metering, apologies, I'm going to walk through two examples, one a typical sunny summer day like today, and then also what it looks like in the winter. So the way net metering works is you gain credits all summer long. So a nice sunny day like today, your solar panels are producing a ton of electricity, and you're only using about half of that based on this blue bar on the graph on the left bar graph. And so you're earning net metering credits for all that difference that you're exporting to the grid in order to help the grid support the needs and have some clean renewable energy to use. So you gain all those net metering credits as net metering credits roll over from month to month. They're tracked on your utility bill, as you will see in the next slide. But so you build up credits all summer long, and then we think forward 6 months from now, it's going to be nice and cold. We will be dreaming of the days where it was 96 degrees and not 22 degrees, and we will be very grumpy because of how gray it is. But there is still some sun. Your solar panels are still producing some amount, and so while it's only yet your consumption has stayed about the same. So your solar panels are still helping offset the amount of power you need, but you are needing to draw more power from the grid, which is represented by the red double arrows here on the right. The excess power you draw from the grid is then offset by those net metering credits you earned all over the summer. So you build up credits all summer long to use them all winter long. So now let's see what this looks like on a bill. So here's an example energy bill. So we can see the end of the meter reading and the start meter reading and see that this customer generated negative 327 kilowatt hours of power usage, meaning they exported 327 kilowatt hours to the grid to be used by their friends and neighbors. So their billable kilowatt hours for this period are 0. And this negative 327 was added to their year-to-date baked excess generation of 3,072 kilowatt hours that they can then use up all winter long. So net metering credits you build up all summer long, as we are seeing here, and then you use them up all winter. So this is that banked excess generation of net metering bank you would, you would then have to use. Net metering credits roll over from month to month. However, they do not roll over from year to year. The net metering year begins and ends around March 31st. It can depend a little bit based on what your billing period is. And any credits you have at the end of that net metering year are forfeited and donated to nonprofits and low-income subscribers. And unfortunately, your utility company will not will not cut you a check for that excess power that you did not use. This is why sizing your system to meet and not exceed your expected power usage is very important and something I will be talking more about on the next slide. Another thing that's very important to remember is that while the billable kilowatt hours for this customer are 0, their final bill that they have to pay for this period will not be 0. There's a minimum monthly fees of taxes and charges that still apply just in order to be connected to the grid, in order to help share in the grid maintenance and just local taxes and things that we all have to pay. On average, this is about $12 to $20 per month. Just really depends on where you're at in the state as to how much that is, and $20 a month is still much less than the average Oregon utility bill, which is between $70 and $100, and it will not increase at nearly the same rate as well. So now, like I said, net metering credits roll over from month to month, but they do not roll over from year to year. This is why sizing your system to meet and not exceed your electricity usage is really important. Your solar installer will usually ask to see some of your past power bills, and we'll talk to you about any anticipated lifestyle changes, such as if you intend to electrify some appliances, or if you will have anyone moving in or out of your home in the near future that you want to be prepared for. It also can be a question of how much space do you have. While you could technically cover your entire roof with solar panels, it will not be as helpful in certain areas based on the amount of sun it receives. So some people are limited in the amount of space they have. The average solar system size here in Oregon is about 8 kilowatts. So now that I've gone through some of the basics of how solar works, how can you know if your home is right for solar? So no matter where you are in the state, the sun stays in the southern half of the sky. We can see it at the top of its arc throughout the sky at the summer solstice here, and at the bottom of its arc at the winter solstice. So ideally, you can have a nice south-facing roof plane in order to install your solar on. However, you can have enough solar access on east and west facing roof planes as well. We just typically do not see solar installed on north, northeast, or northwest facing planes, as they typically do not receive enough sun to make that worthwhile. So even though throughout the state we have enough sun in order to make solar a viable option, your specific home may not if your home is very well shaded with large trees, such as the homes pictured here. However, we do love our trees. They help keep our city nice and cool. They help keep your home cool, and they're a really great resource. So if your home is heavily shaded, please don't cut down your big, beautiful trees. Instead, I'd highly recommend looking into an option like community solar, and I'll be putting a link to that in the chat at the end of the presentation. Another thing that can impact your ability to go solar is your roof condition and structure. We recommend you have 10 plus years of roof life left, as in order to re-roof your home, you'll have to remove and reinstall solar, and that added cost and complexity just adds extra fees and cost to you, the customer, and your solar panels can be damaged in that process, adding further headache and cost to you in order to get your solar system up and running again. If your roof is very complex and has a lot of small roof plates instead of one large continuous one, that can also lead to added cost. And while what was on top of your roof matters, we recommend that 10 years of roof life again. What's under your roof matters just as much. If you're planning to get roof mounted solar, you need to ensure that your roof has enough structural stability in order to support the added weight and wind that the solar panels can create. So if you have rafters, your home might need some extra engineering in order to prove that it has sufficient support, and that can come at an added cost. And in some cases, you may need to even add trusses in order for it to meet the requirements. If you have trusses, in most cases, you will be good to go without issue. So now that I've talked about that, I'm going to dive into the exciting topic of battery storage. So, a common misconception is that solar alone allows you to use power when the grid is down. Unfortunately, that is not true. Even if you have solar panels, your solar panels will not be able to draw in power because they do not want any power being exported to the grid and accidentally shocking anyone working on the line. In order to have power when the grid is down, you need to have both solar and storage. And solar and storage are very complementary technologies. Solar can recharge your storage in the event of an outage and makes it more efficient. And storage allows your solar panels to keep working. The ability to use power when the grid is down is called energy resilience. So, when thinking about your home energy storage system, you want to be thinking about what type of disaster you are preparing for. Small, frequent outages can be caused by storms or squirrels. Here in Oregon, we also have the risk of a power safety shutoff in order to lower the fire danger, the first of which occurred in 2020. And lastly, we have the unique risk of the Cascadia seismic hazard, which predicts that the Willamette Valley could lose power for up to 3 months and longer on the coast, or up to 3 weeks with longer on the coast. Apologies, it's very hot where I am, and I am trying to do my best as I can for all of you today, so apologies if I misspeak. But we have that unique risk, and so you want to be able to temper your expectations as far as how long your home energy storage will last, and also be thinking about what type of disaster you are preparing for. When it comes to picking a battery, some installers may specialize in one specific type. So if there's a battery you've researched and know you want to be able to advocate for that. If you're powering a motor, you will also need to check your surge capacity, and you need to be aware that batteries require space. Ideally, they can be placed out in the open near an electric panel, as they are not allowed to be in a crawl space or cupboard. And if they are far from the electric panel, you'll have to pay more to just run conduit from your electric panel back to your battery. They can be placed outside, but there may be some aesthetic considerations if you don't want the look of that. When it comes to backing up your home, it's very important to temper your expectations about how long a battery can last. And many people elect to do a partial backup, which is when you select only a few circuits in order to retain power from your battery in the event of an outage. A whole home backup can be prohibitively expensive to have for any significant length of time, though it is an option if you have the means for it. When it comes to creating a partial backup of your home, there are two options on how to do it. The first is the creation of an essential loads panel. This is when you create a secondary electric panel next to your original one, and only that panel is connected to the battery. So you will select only a few circuits in order to retain power, and all the other ones will automatically switch off in the event of an outage. There are also smart options available, including smart breakers and even smart electric panels. These options allow you to make more changes on just based on how you feel. The SPAN smart electric panel allows you to, as an example, allows you to sort all your circuits into 3 different categories and always have, a nice to have, and a middle category of it's a always have, a nice to have, and a non-essential category. So those always have circuits will stay on no matter what. Those nice to have circuits you can adjust when they will switch off, but I think generally it's at about when your battery's at only 70% capacity, they will automatically switch off. And non-essential will automatically switch off in the event of an outage. I also know people who use the smart electric panel in order to turn off their kids' TV after a certain hour in order to prevent them from playing video games. So it can be used for a variety of different things, but it is a newer technology and therefore more expensive. So when thinking about the creation of either a partial backup or how big of a battery you need, it's a question of what needs power and for how long. The more things you have connected drawing power from the battery, the shorter amount of time it will last. While your solar panels can recharge your battery while the grid is down, there's no guarantee that there will be enough sun, or depending on the disaster that has led to you having to utilize your battery, that your solar panels are still operational. Typically, people choose to back up an outlet or two for charging devices, some lights in common areas, and a fridge. So now that I've talked through the basics of both solar and battery storage, I'm going to talk about the available incentives. So the biggest incentive available is the solar investment tax credit. This is a 30% dollar for dollar tax credit offered by the federal government. Really quickly before I talk more about this is not official tax advice. I am not a tax expert. And if you have any specific questions or would like official tax advice, please consult a professional. The solar investment tax credit only can be applied to both solar and storage, and like I said, is a 30% dollar for dollar tax credit. So whatever the price of your system is, 30% of that is what you can carry forward over is what you can claim, and it can be carried forward over multiple years. Now, one important thing that is newer information about this is that the solar tax credit is only going to be available through December 31st of this year. In order to claim this credit, you need to have a installed and operational solar system by December 31st, 2025. After that, this credit will be going away. In addition to the federal solar investment tax credit, there's also incentives offered by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust incentives, in order to access them, the only thing you as a consumer have to do is work with an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally contractor. These are contractors that have been vetted by Energy Trust of Oregon and received trade ally certification, which allows them to offer these incentives, and they will apply for them on your behalf, and you will only see the discount on the bottom of your bill. At the end of the presentation, I'll be talking some about how to find an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally contractor, but just know that is what the step you have to do. There's no extra paperwork for you in order to get this incentive. These incentives change, so these are the numbers as of today. In Portland General Electric, for anyone in Portland General Electric territory, it is $800 for solar and $350 per kilowatt hour, up to $4,200 for storage. And for power customers, it is again $800 for solar and $350 per kilowatt hour, up to $4,200 for storage. The incentives offers are subject to change based on available funding, but these are what they are as of right now. In addition to those standard incentives, there is also Energy Trust of Oregon Solar Within Reach, which is income qualified incentives. They follow that same basic structure where it's a certain amount of money for solar and a certain amount of dollars per kilowatt hours for storage. And these incentives are income qualified. However, the income qualified threshold is very generous, with the cutoff for a family of four being $128,564 per year. If you want to see if you qualify or learn more about these incentives, you can scan the QR code that is currently on the screen. So I'm going to walk through an example budget for what it can look like to get a solar and storage system in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to just be very clear that there's a lot of reasons costs can vary, and the quote you get may seem quite a bit different than the quote I'm going to show you today. Costs can vary for a variety of reasons, including the system size and design, if you need any roofing or electrical updates, if you are installing storage later, if you are able to access incentives, and if you have any extra interconnection fees or issues. So the basic cost before any incentives for an 8 kilowatt solar system is $32,000, and for a solar plus storage system, it is $52,000. From there, you then get those Energy Trust incentives if you have worked with a trade ally contractor. So that takes $800 off your solar system and $5,000 off your solar plus storage system, making the total out-of-pocket cost to you, the customer, $31,200 for solar or $47,000 for solar plus storage. If you're then getting your solar installed before the end of the year, you then get that apply for and claim that 30% investment tax credit. Excuse me. Making the final total actual cost to you, the customer, $21,840 for excuse me, for a solar system or 32,900 for solar plus storage. If you are income qualified and can access other incentives, that can save you additional money. And it also is important to note that it typically is an increased cost if you're adding your storage system to an already established solar system later. That's just because you have to pay for all those teams to come out again, repull the permits, and your system might not be optimized for adding storage, which can just lead to some extra costs. So I know those are some pretty big numbers, so I want to be sure to tell you that financing is very common. There are some specific loans tailored to solar that allow you to refinance after claiming that 30% federal tax credit, and your installer may have a financing partner or bank that they work with. However, it is always a good idea to talk to your specific bank, credit union, and research your options yourself in order to make sure you're making a sound financial decision. So now with all this information, how can you get started? I would highly recommend working with an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally contractor. These contractors have already been vetted by Energy Trust of Oregon, and they are familiar with all Energy Trust design and installation requirements and are very good at working throughout Oregon as they are familiar with our local laws and regulations as well. They are also the only contractors that can offer you energy trust incentives. So if you want to save $800 on solar or $5,000 on your solar and storage system, working with a trade ally contractor is the only way to get that. If you want to find one, you can scan this QR code that's currently on the screen in order to request a custom analysis and bid from up to 3 contractors who work in your area. This is completely free and does not make you beholden to those contractors or even moving forward with any of the bids you receive at this time at all. However, I do want to remind you that the investment tax credit is going away. And so if you want to get solar or think you might be ready to get solar soon, I highly recommend doing it this year if possible in order to claim that federal tax credit. Once you select a contractor and begin working with them, the contractor will complete all paperwork except for the tax credit. And permitting time can vary, but your contractor will pull all your permits and take care of that for you. It can take between 2 and 12 months, just depending on where you are at in the state. And once you get your permits, installation is very quick at only 1 to 4 days, and your contractor will manage all inspections and interconnections. Now I'm going to launch the last poll, but also please put any questions you have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I will stay on and I'm here to answer your questions. I want to make sure you leave feeling empowered to get the solar system you want. I'm not able to call on people who've raised their hand. I need you to put your chat questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. In this webinar format, I'm a little bit limited and cannot see you. But if you click that box at the bottom, I'll be able to receive your question. We'll read it out loud for everyone in the group. If there are no questions, thank you so much for coming to the workshop today. You can again request a free custom analysis and bid using that QR code on screen. I just saw some questions come up. So the first is that one person currently has a low monthly cost, but their bills will be going up soon as 2 family members are moving in. And they're wondering how they can get qualified. So I'm assuming you're in Oregon. There's no qualification in order to go solar. It really is just about getting the money and finding a contractor you want to work with. It can be very expensive, as I showed in that one example budget I walked through, and depending on the number of people in your home, you may be able to qualify for those additional incentives based on the maximum income level. So I would recommend looking into that and seeing if you can qualify for some additional incentives. And hopefully that answered your question. If not, I'm more than happy. Please put another question into the chat. Someone else asked about Tesla panels versus regular. So all panels work great. Your solar contractor might have some recommendations of what they would recommend for your specific system. I know some people have reasons for not wanting to work with Tesla anymore, and so those are also completely valid and really just depend on the customer and what you are interested in. But that's a great question to ask your solar contractor and see what they recommend for your system. And you can also do your own research and see what Consumer Reports and other organizations also recommend. One attendee asked if the solar project is completed and paid for, but final permits haven't been approved, would still qualify for the tax credit. Um, Unfortunately, from everything I have read, in order to qualify for the tax credit, you have to be interconnected to the grid by December 31st, 2025. I, of course, as I said, am not a tax expert, and this is not official tax advice. And I'd highly recommend reaching out to a tax expert with that specific question. But that's how I've understood it, and I am personally going for a more conservative reading of the bill in order to ensure no one gets overrun or accidentally gets bad information. I want people to be able to get solar panels for as cheap as they can. So yes, you want to be interconnected to the grid by December 31st. The 30% federal tax credit, one person asked if you need to be at a certain income qualification for that, and you do not. Anyone can claim that credit. It just is, again, no longer going to be available after December 31st, 2025. And then we also got a question asking what is the additional incentive and if it is a cash incentive for install. And no, it is not a cash incentive. It is the Energy Trust of Oregon Solar Within Reach incentive. It is similar to the standard Energy Trust incentive where you need to work with a trade ally contractor in order to get the incentive, but it will take money off your final bill. It will not give you cash for that. It will instead they will work with your contractor to give you that discount, and your contractor, I believe, receives that extra for giving it to you. So there's no extra paperwork you have to do, other than telling your contractor you do in fact qualify for it, and they will confirm that and walk you through how to receive it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but please keep putting those questions into the chat. And I am just going to grab some links really quick for everyone. And then I will keep answering questions. I would check out the Energy Trust Solar Within Reach incentive that I just put into the chat, but I believe it is total household income. Yes. I'm here to answer your questions for as long as people keep typing them in the chat. If you have any other questions, you can also email us at info@solaroregon.org. More than happy to help answer them there. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening. I'll stay on a few more minutes just to see if any other questions come through. You can take a copy of that list. Someone asked how they can get a copy of it. You can copy it out of the chat right now. I won't close the chat yet. I'll stay here until I'm sure everyone got a chance to save it. And it will also be sent out with the recording that will be sent out later this week along with the recording of this webinar.